there's many different ways to get into it and many different reasons why someone would use turnkey.
Do you have a deal you could walk us through, kind of give us, maybe just not necessarily representative sample, but give us an example of what you might work with?
As far as property or what? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm not offering it for investment, just kind of show us kind of what the numbers look like. Do you have anything, what's an investment, what's a down payment, what kind of return are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. So I can speak to that. I mean, obviously, and anyone who's interested, I mean, you can look at all this information. It's public to you on our website, renttoretirement.com. Click on the inventory, click on all active inventory, and it'll pop up all of the information on all of the properties. But typically what you're finding is, what is a good subject sample? Most of our properties, we focus on A and B markets or A and B neighborhoods. Our price points are typically $100,000 to $200,000 for the most part on single family. We also do multifamily, new construction, some commercial. If you go back up, Bill, just a little bit, if you hit that all active inventory, there you go. And then it'll give you a good, this is exactly what we have available today. And then each of these properties has its own little brochure as well, which is going to give you a breakdown of what's going on with that property. But to finish the thought process, A and B neighborhoods, $100,000 to $200,000 for the most part on single family. There's also multifamily, new construction, commercial as well. So you have those opportunities. As you already know, 10 different states, so you can expand your geography as well.
Can you kind of walk through, like, this as an example? Is this something that might be representative that you can share with us what this might look like?
Yeah, luckily enough, there's actually a duplex to show you. I mean, I always tell people multifamily, but Bill, if you've been watching the inventory, they don't pop up and they usually go away very quickly. So I bet this property will be gone in the next couple of hours. Anyways, this is a typical offering. What you're looking at here is this is a duplex. We give you the neighborhood class. We break down the rent and square footage and all of that fun stuff. The next highlight would be the rehab status and the rental status. So you have an idea of what's going on there as well. So this property was rehabbed in the last 12 to 24 months. The half is rented. The other one has a potential tenant lined up. By the way, this will all be cleaned up for you before closing. One thing I always want to bring up in real estate investing, and anyone who's been investing already knows, I want to know everything about this property. Yeah, I mean, and I understand that. And you will prior to closing. It's just prior to putting in an offer, you may not have every single piece of information that you want. Because one of the things that I always caution people on is procrastination. So, I mean, if you're running your numbers, of course, do your due diligence, run your numbers. But if the numbers make sense to you, put an offer in. I mean, at the end of the day, you do have a contingency on inspection and appraisal. If the numbers aren't adding up for whatever reason, or, we don't get that tenant in place, or insurance comes back 3 times what you thought it was going to be, you're not going to be forced to close on this deal, but you want to be able to lock deals in. So I just wanted to get that out there. So if we keep scrolling down, you'll get whatever photos that we have of the interior. Sometimes it would be limited because you'll notice in our inventory that you'll have some properties actually have tenants in them. So you'll just have a photo of the outside. We're not going to go disturb the tenants 100 times. We're already going to do that through the sales process with inspections and appraisals. But then you just get a feel for what the inside looks like. Are these all the photos that we have? That's usually the next question I have. Typically, yes. If you're looking for more photos, again, through the due diligence process, you'll be receiving an inspection, appraisals. And, if it really comes down to it, and for whatever reason, you just need to see the layout or whatever, we'll have the property manager just do a video walkthrough, doing a FaceTime for you. Is that something that you can have prior to the offer? No, because there's literally thousands of you, and one of them, they'd spend their whole day just touring the property with their phone, and that's just not going to work. We're trying to get some of our property managers to do videos and upload them to this. That's up and coming, so I can't promise that you'll have it on all of everything right now, but we're trying to encourage them, hey, the more information, the less questions, everybody's happier. Sure. If we keep scrolling down, then we really get into the nuts and bolts of what we're looking at here. So we give you the purchase price. Obviously, the all cash price is exactly the same thing. Down payments. This is always going to be based on conventional financing. So typically it's 20% for single family, 25% for duplex, triplex, quadplex. Once you get into 5 doors, you're in the commercial realm, and we do work with commercial lenders as well. So now you can see the down payment amount, closing costs and fees. Those are going to vary. So I would not use those numbers as gospel. This is why we always have our clients or our investors get a pre-approval first. You're going to want to talk to your lender, talk about the fees, talk about what their fees are made up of, because our 3,000 is based on this. So we budgeted $1,000 for the lender fees, $500 for the appraisal, and $1,500 for title. And you'll be close to that. I mean, I know in other states, closing costs can be much higher. I know people in New York can look at this and be like, there's no way you can close on any property for $3,000. Believe it or not, you can. But you're going to want to get those fees from your lender. So then you break it down to your total cash investment. Interest rate, we use 4%. You're going to use whatever you get, 4.5, 4.75, whatever. And then the calculator will break this down. By the way, this calculator is also on our website under tools, so you can plug in your own numbers and it'll update everything for you. Debt service monthly, that's simply your mortgage payment. Debt service yearly, that's what it adds up to over 12 months. The monthly rent, so $1,550 on this particular property. That would be for both halves. Annual property tax, $2,157. That's coming from the assessor site. So anytime that we have a property tax in there, we're getting it from the assessor site. This is not typically an estimation, so you have the real numbers. Utilities are surprising to me to be zero on a duplex. Typically, there are utilities. That means we have split meters here, which is fantastic. Sometimes you'll get into a duplex that gets a single family that gets converted into duplexes. They only have 1 meter, so sometimes you can't split. Some jurisdictions won't allow you to charge the tenants the utilities either. So like in Cleveland, that's a thing. You have to pick up at least the water. So Iowa, not a thing. You can have the tenants paying their own utilities, which is cool. Other operating expenses, this is typically where we'll put like snow removal, landscaping, etc. So as the example is zero, that means it's the tenant's responsibility.
What's snow removal?
Yeah. Oh yeah, snow removal. Yeah, for some of these places. Annual insurance premium, $1,075. That's based on a current quote. And we also have insurance providers that we can turn you on to so that you can match those quotes. Then you get into our calculations, vacancy, maintenance, and property management. Let's talk about those. The thing I always get beat up with on every day is vacancy rate and maintenance rate seems low. The vacancy rate is low. I would agree with you. So 3% is low. Where do we come up with that number? So as a company, we decided to use 3% because it's based on a portfolio of properties. Our 3% comes from over the last 10 years, 3,000 plus properties that have been sold. We know that our average tenant stay is 3.5 to 4 years. And we also know that our property management companies can get somebody in 18 to 21 days. So if you do the math on that, it's actually less than 3%. Now, if I'm a first-time investor and this is my only property, should I budget 3%? Is that going to be a good number? I'd probably kick it up a little bit just so you had a better number. 8% would mean 1 vacancy per year, which is not good. I mean, you're not going to cash flow with 1 vacancy every single year. But I would kick it up a little bit so you had a higher budget number and you have more money in your account for the what ifs that arise. Maintenance rate of 3%. I agree with that for the first year. So if you remember, these properties are receiving a recent renovation. In addition to that, you're going to be ordering an inspection. So when that inspection report comes back, if there's anything that needs to be repaired, replaced, fixed, etc., that's going to be dealt with prior to closing. In addition to that, we look at the large mechanicals. So specifically roof, HVAC, foundation, hot water tank, all of that has to have 7 to 10 years life left in it. Otherwise, those are going to be replaced as well. And all of this is at our expense. It's not changing your capital investment. So I do believe 3% is a good number. Yep, there's the worksheet so you can plug in your numbers. The 3% is a good number to start with. If you're going to hold on to this property for multiple years, personally, I would add a little bit each year, maybe 3 to 5% to 7%. But I'll also tell you that, and I don't know your audience, Bill, first-time investors, long-time investors. Long-time investors are probably rolling their eyes. But, first-time investors, what I would tell you is these are not forever homes, right? So these are investment properties. Most of these properties, you're probably not going to hold on to for more than 6 to 8 years. And there's a couple of different reasons for that. Now, that's not a hard and fast rule, but it's definitely time to start evaluating your position in the property for a couple of different reasons. A, that rehab work is getting older. B, that property is getting older. C, the mechanicals are getting older. So if you recently had the roof replaced, some of your large ones, roof replaced, HVAC was replaced, and you've got a good solid tenant and you've had annual rent increases and it's cash flowing, you may not want to mess with this property. But if you've had turnover, the roof is coming due, in the next year or so, it may be time to unload this property and get into a fresher rehab. Property management, you're going to find that varies 8 to 10%. It just depends on the property manager we're using in that market. So this specific market is 10%. So the rest is just how everything calculates out. Excel does that for you. You've got your gross scheduled income. It subtracts the vacancy amount, which gives you your gross operating income. Then it subtracts everything out, the property management, property taxes, utilities, everything that you saw above, so that you have your total operating expenses. You subtract that from the gross operating income. So if we scroll down just a little bit more, there's your net operating income. Minus the mortgage, that's obviously the biggest expense that you have. So take the mortgage out and your annual cash flow on this property is $5,804. The monthly cash flow is $484. But the numbers that I personally look at is the cash on cash return is important. This is basically, how much money am I getting for how much money I spent? I mean, that's really the layman's terms of it. What you do is you take the annual cash flow and you divide it by your total cash outlay that you saw up above. And you're going to see that it's 14%, which is, in my opinion, pretty phenomenal on turnkey properties.
So just to stop there, what you're saying is the annual cash flow, the 5804,
yep,
it's about 13.9%, almost 14% of your total investment of $41,000.
Correct. That's how it should kind of pan out. So if we take it here, let's take a calculator real quick. Make sure we got our math right. 5804. And what was the 5804 divided by 41,750? Yeah, 13.9%.
There you go.
So
it'd be like you put 4,000 in the bank. At the end of the first year, you still have your money in the bank, and you get back the 5804 in interest or dividends or whatever your appreciation is.
That's correct. So then when you look at the next line, this is where it starts getting creative, folks. So cash on cash return with depreciation. So depreciation, if you're not familiar with it, on your property, you can depreciate the value of your property. Basically, what you do is you take the value of the property and you divide it by 27.5. Whatever that number is times your tax rate. In this instance, we assume 30%. Then we add that to the annual cash flow to see what your cash on cash return looks like with that. Why do we put that in there? Because for a lot of these properties, what you're going to find is that the bulk, if not all of your income is going to be tax-free. And how does that happen? Well, because when you're taking the depreciation, depending upon, again, your tax rates and everything else, but most of the time you're going to find that your depreciation is higher than the income that you're showing on these properties. So you wind up with tax-free income. So that is a benefit to you.
So just to stop 1 second. So that's assuming somebody who has an alternative income source. You have a job, you have a business, you're paying taxes. This is the benefit against those taxes expressed in cash terms.
Yes and no. So there's cost segregation analysis where we could actually do that if you had a portfolio of properties. So if you can show losses on these properties, that would help you in W-2 scenarios. But with one property, you're probably not going to be able to pull that off. What this is more about is, so this $5,804 that you're taking in income, the bulk, if not all of that, is going to be written off in the depreciation expense. So it's not an additional expense you're going to have to take on your taxes.
Got it.
Okay.
That makes sense. So again, this is saying of the money you're getting, a chunk of it is basically tax-free or tax-deferred because of depreciation.
Absolutely correct.
Okay.
And then the cash on cash return with appreciation, we just keep compounding this, folks. So this appreciation, what we do for our purposes, we anticipate or we calculate 4% appreciation on the property. So whatever 4% of the gross value of the home is, we add that in as well, because again, that is an advantage. I mean, it's an asset that you own. It gained value over the year. You really didn't pay for it. You paid for 20% down plus your closing costs. So that is a gain for you as well. And then the cash on cash return with loan pay down, that's basically, it's taking all the numbers from above and adding also whatever the tenant paid down over the year. So basically whatever However, they lowered your mortgage payment over the year. That's a gain to you as well. Now, are you going to be able to put that in your bank? No. That's why the top two are really ones that you can put in your bank account. And then obviously we just projected out 10 years, and you can see, if you were let this sit for 10 years, you'd have a 413 or whatever, 414% on cash return. But guys, seriously, from my point of view and hopefully yours, the top two numbers are really the ones I look at. Cash on cash return. Everybody understands that. I like taking the depreciation into account as well, because especially if you're getting this as tax-free income, that's pretty fantastic.
Thanks for watching the Rent to Retirement YouTube channel. Check out some of our other videos, like this one, or this one here.